I'm just going to quickly label this task painting because I keep bringing it up, so I may as well just have a constant task there, and that shows us the whole works programs associated with painting. So we've got some great time savings from just doing some simple scheduling, and we still really haven't changed any of the scheduling relationships from one task to another. What I'm saying there is that every time we've scheduled something, we've just used the default. We've assumed the finish to start relationship. So this is going to take a little bit of time. What we're going to try and do is identify another type relationship we can use. And if you think about a lot of these things, we might be able to try another type relationship, maybe the start to start relationship. So do we need to finish cleaning the whole wall until we can start patching it? Again, this goes down to how you want to run your project. If I was painting a room, I might say, look, I'll do all the cleaning, then I'll start patching once it's done. But really, to save time, you could start cleaning and wait a minute or so, and then you could start patching the cleaned areas from then on. One thing I haven't talked about at all is lag, and we'll bring this in right at the end of the session, so just stay tuned for that. So my logic here is I'm going to say that it takes 5 minutes to clean a wall, and it takes 1 minute for drying to occur. So effectively we need to wait 1 minute before we can start patching. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, for this relationship here, I'm just going to delete this one here, and I'm just going to say to patch wall 1 we need to have cleaned wall 1. Okay. And if I just press enter here, it's just going to assume a finish to start relationship. So I'm going to tell it otherwise. I can do this a number of ways. I can go here, predecessors. I can change the relationship here. I'm going to use the start to start for an example. Press that, press OK. And what this has done here is just said, okay, well, once you started that one, you can then start that activity. That might be fine. But as I said before, we might have to wait a certain amount of time. So I'm going to add what we call lag. I'm just going to double click back on here, and here I'm going to add 1 minute of lag. These are normally set as a default to days, but given the nature of the project, I change everything to minutes. I'm going to press OK. You can see this activity here starts. That's clean wall 1, and then after a minute we can start patching wall 1. If you wanted to do this another way, you could, instead of using this screen, you could just do the shorthand. You could go, it needs task 4 to be as a predecessor. I'm going to put the relationship as start to start, and I'm going to add 1 minute of lag. And project understands that as a shorthand. If you don't want to memorize stuff, just double click here, head to the predecessors tab, and use these controls here. You'll get the same effect. So I've just gone through and copied that across, had the same sort of logic. Patch wall number 2 requires us to clean wall number 2 plus that minute of lag we identified. And I can keep going through. And what I'm doing here is I'm following our network diagram that we very quickly did, where we said we need to clean, we need to patch, we also can tape at the same time we're patching. Once those activities are done, we cut in, we roller, and so on. So what I can do to save some time is, for the taping, I can copy these relationships because they're going to be the same. So tape wall 1 requires us to start cleaning wall 1. We can wait for a minute, and then we can keep going. And the reason behind that is that, you know, we've cleaned the area that we're going to tape, so it's free of dust and so on. Then we can start taping. That's fine. Looking at our project's duration after doing these activities, we would actually expect the project's duration to have increased, because at the end of the day we've actually added in 8 minutes of extra time or waiting time that needs to occur. But if you look at the project's duration, it's actually gone down from 80 minutes to 76 minutes. But I'm stumped at the moment. Why, when I've added all this extra waiting time, has my project's duration actually decreased? Think about that for a second. Okay, how'd you go with the answer for that challenge? Why has our project's duration gone down from 80 minutes to 76 minutes, even though we've added 8 extra minutes of lag? Simple. It's because we've actually used the start-to-start relationship rather than the finish-to-start relationship on those activities. Previously, we had this logic that we have clean. Once clean's finished, then the patching can occur and the taping. That was our original configuration. What we've done is we've actually brought these activities here and said, look, you don't need to wait for this activity to finish before you can start these. As soon as this one starts, we wait a minute, which we called our lag, then these can start. And so our time saving has been because we've actually managed to bring these forward, regardless of the extra time we've added on. To find the 4 minutes, the cleaning stage was 5 minutes. So if you look, time equals 0 at the start of this activity, time equals 5 at the end. What we've done is we've reduced 4 minutes by saying that patching and taping can occur after minute 1. Okay. So effectively, it saved us that 4 minutes here, because now everything can start at time equals 1 rather than time equals 5, giving us that 4 minute saving. Okay, here's a question that sometimes gets raised when you've actually come to the site. And initially we identified in our very messy now network diagram that we need to clean, patch, tape, then we can start cutting in. What if you actually identify on the site that in order to cut in, patching wasn't necessary? So for example, there were no holes or any issues towards the borders of any of the walls. All the issues were in the middle. Then you might say, okay, well hang on, we don't actually need to patch before we start cutting in. We still need to patch before we start rollering. So what I'm going to show you now is just a way to save some more time. So we've identified the site, we've looked at it and we said, okay, well hang on, we don't need to patch, we can just start cutting in. So here I've represented it like this. So for cut in, I've said, okay, well all we need to do now is to tape it. And I've added 2 minutes of lag, so let's assume you've got 2 resources, one taping, the other one painting. We'll give the person taping a 2-minute head start just so we don't get in their way. If you look at the maths, we shouldn't catch them because this takes 15 minutes versus taping takes 10 minutes. So when you're looking at your head starts to give your lead time, look at those two and see which activity actually happens quicker. If the taping actually was a slower activity, so it took longer, we might leave a longer lead time so we didn't end up catching that other resource. But what I want to do is I want to make sure all the patching's done before I start doing any painting on the roller, because once I get started it's pretty quick. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to add another constraint in here, another predecessor. Easiest way is if you've got this information here, double click, you'll open this pane here, and all I'm going to do is add another line. And here I'm looking at painting wall 1, so I want patch wall 1 to be a predecessor. I'm going to put 9 in here, and I'm just going to let it do its own thing. You could put lag in here if you had something to wait to dry, but I'm just going to assume it's 0, and I'm going to press OK. Same thing, I'm going to go through and repeat these exercises. In the interest of showing you how to do it shorthand as well, you can put a comma in, put the next one through, and you can see what's going on now. We're getting 2 links, one from the activity here and one from the activity up there, which was our patching. Okay. Choose how I do it, whether I want to double click and put an 11 in there, or put a comma and put a 12 in there. Either way, it's achieving the same thing. Okay, to round it up, the next thing we're going to do to save some time is in the tape removal. And we've just made a judgment call here. We've just made a decision that we're not going to wait to finish painting to remove the tape. All we're going to do is wait until the wall's been cut in, then we can move the tape respective for that wall. I mean, it's a high risk maneuver, but in the interest of saving time, that's what we're going to commit ourselves to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that once I've started cutting in, I can start removing the tape. What we do have to be careful of is the duration for this task is only 5 minutes. where its predecessor is 15 minutes. So in terms of leaving some head start or lead time, we're going to have to be quite careful of that because we want to make sure that we're not held up by the preceding task. In this case, I'm going to allow 9 minutes of lag between when we start cutting in to when we start removing the tape. Okay. To do this, double click here, and we're going to put the ID here as 20. Okay. And I'm going to put in our assumed 9 minutes of lag. Make sure you change this, because if we leave it as finish to start, it's going to wait till the activity finishes, then add on 9 minutes, which is not what we want to do. We want to say once it's started, wait 9 minutes, and then we'll start taking the tape off. And our relationship will look like this. I'm going to go ahead and fill this out for the rest of them. So once it's been done, you can see our remove tape here, and we've said that we don't need that to do the client sign off. I find it's best to link everything together, so have no dangling tasks, so say project finish, give that a milestone, and then what we can do is we can link all these dangling tasks to that. So we can put in 30 there, which links all those tasks, and we can also put in any other task IDs there that we want as a predecessor. Okay. In this case, I am just going to put a comma, and I'm going to put the client sign off because I think everything else is linked to that. We can go through and double check that anyway. Okay. Client sign off, instead of 25 there, that should be 38. And this is actually one cautionary note. I've left this as a default for manual scheduled. If you have things as manually scheduled, just be careful because it won't change if you do update your schedule. So I've done a really cool video on how to change things from manual to auto. In this instance, I'm just going to change this, but have a look at the video because that will help you out. And you can see here our project duration now is 61 minutes. Okay. So we've done a couple of things and we've saved a lot of time in our project. I think we start off at 370 minutes, now we've gone to 61 minutes, and in some cases we've taken a few things which may compromise quality, but we didn't need to. Just by changing the relationships and how things were scheduled, we actually find that we can save a lot of time in our projects.